This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark Magnuson.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Thursday, November 7th, 2024, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Macy Marek of Pioneer. She's going to tell us about the latest team-up effort with Pioneer and the IFAA, as some money will be going to scholarships for students that are interested in advancing their agricultural studies in college, and that money was raised through the sale of Pioneer-branded Brock Purdy jerseys. We will have Macy coming up with more on that topic in just a little bit, but it's time now for a check from our sponsors, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. You're watching Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Today on Ag Matters PM, I am joined by Macy Marek of Pioneer.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Macy Marek. She is with Pioneer in Corteva. We are at the campus here in Johnston today for an event that is helping to give money to the IFAA, the Iowa Foundation for the Advancement of Agriculture. And Macy, could you tell us, please, what we're here to talk about today as we are for this exciting event?
Sure. We're here to talk about the partnership between Brock Purdy, Pioneer Seeds, and the IFAA, and supporting students in agriculture that want to continue their education in agriculture within the state of Iowa.
So, Macy, how did this project start? Was it a Pioneer idea? Was it an idea from IFAA? Did it just work out?
Sure. So I'm a part of the Pioneer Corn team here in Johnston, based in Iowa. But yeah, it really came from the Pioneer Corn team. We did some partnerships with Brock Purdy initially because we think he did a great job of representing what the Pioneer brand represents: hard work, dedication, agriculture at the end of the day being very important to a majority of people's lives. But really, we saw that as a great opportunity to have him as an influencer, as a partner for Pioneer Corn. But then we started getting some questions later on once we did a commercial with him, actually with him wearing a Pioneer jersey, to where people were like, how can I purchase a Pioneer jersey for myself that says Purdy on it? So we started thinking, how can we use that to also give back to something else maybe? And we let Brock Purdy pick a couple options, and he actually chose the IFAA as a place for those proceeds to go to support students going into agriculture.
And so hearing that all about Brock, it sounds like he is invested in agriculture. What did you make of that when you got a chance to interact with him and learn more about him?
Yeah, it was great to meet him. I mean, I think, sometimes when you meet somebody, you never know if they're going to be what you thought. He's 100% exactly how he portrays himself in other medias that you see of him. He does a great job of really connecting with people, but also just being a great spokesperson and really, truly down to earth and really what we want to represent in terms of ethics and a great person overall.
And again, where are these scholarships going to?
Yes, so these scholarships are going to go through the IFAA, but they are really going to be given to 4 students over the next 2 years. So we'll have 4 students that are going to receive $4,000 to support their education in agriculture.
And Macy, then it is for students that are interested in agribusiness, crop science. It could be anything really, as long as it's agriculture?
Absolutely. However they want to get involved with agriculture, I mean, we know now there's a lot of just your traditional agriculture, but there's also a lot of opportunities for students these days to get involved maybe in more of an urban setting or different opportunities that relate back to agriculture. So we just want to see more students continue to get involved in ag.
And then back to the Brock Purdy jerseys that you talked about people are interested in. If you're a Pioneer grower and you can get your hands on a football jersey with the Brock Purdy, that is pretty cool. Were they a hot ticket item?
They were a hot ticket item. Actually, it's really exciting that you actually mentioned that because our goal was $10,000. And so to see the amount of support that came in and the excitement around this to exceed our goal and hit $16,000 was absolutely phenomenal.
So it's a $16,000 total, and then again, it will break down into 4 separate scholarships.
Correct. Yep.
And then are all students that are involved in this all Iowa State students, or can they go to other schools as well, as long as they're on that agriculture side of things?
Yeah, we talk a lot about Iowa State just because Brock Purdy went to Iowa State. A lot of our students that go into agriculture do go to Iowa State, but absolutely, they have the opportunity to go to a lot of other great schools within the state of Iowa as long as it's related to agriculture.
So overall, Macy, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about this project or anything else that went into it or just something that you're excited about it?
Yeah, it was really exciting to see the support that we had across the state for not only Pioneer and the Pioneer Corn brand, but also to partner with Brock Purdy and give back to an organization like IFAA. We're super excited to give back to these students and continue to support agriculture.
Well, thanks so much for telling us about this exciting adventure, and it has been fun to learn about here today. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your week.
Have a safe harvest.
Thank you to Macy Marek of Pioneer for joining today's show, as it is time now for our closing market coverage, and we're joined now by Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. At the end of the trading day, we are joined now by Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net to discuss today's trade. Ross, how did the grains trade here today?
We had a firmer day of trade across the grain markets for the most part. Corn didn't do a whole lot, but it did bounce off the lows. It closed about 5 cents off of the early morning lows. It was penny to 2 cents higher. Soybeans were the big story here today, where they traded firmer on the overnight. We're up more than 10 cents at one point, and then this morning traded 1 to 2 cents lower before the end of the day. Close in January beans were 22.5 cents higher. So that was the big story. And over in the wheat market, Chicago wheat was 2 cents lower. Kansas City was a nickel lower.
So for that positive price movement that we saw from the beans here today, do you have any theories on why beans were able to get that nice jump to the upside?
Beans have had really solid exports here recently, which this is our main export window as we're coming out of harvest. But exports this morning, they were very impressive. We're above the high end of the guesses for the weekly number. But the big story, the big driver was the soybean oil market. It was up over 200 basis points here today. And there's just a lot of chatter floating around with the used cooking oil market, with Trump winning the election, what that could mean for used cooking oil imports into our country, which a lot of that's out of China. And so it's a risk to the upside, which is if there was anything put into place against used cooking oil imports into the United States, that's bullish bean oil. And that's what we saw happen here today. Bean oil was actually, this is trading that back up to the highest levels that it's been at since this past July. So it's definitely a story to watch, and there'll be a lot of headlines around it. It's going to create a lot of volatility, but I think the biggest thing for producers to keep in mind is bean fundamentals themselves do not remain, they're not bullish. We got a WASDE report tomorrow. The guesses are right around a 550 million bushel bean carry out, but at the end of the day, we have plenty of beans in this country, so beans by themselves are not that bullish. And so if you see rallies, especially driven from the bean oil market, use these rallies to your advantage. I was just on the phone with a producer, and he's getting targets in place for beans if they're put another 20 to 30 cents on to layer into making some cash sales here.
And then, as you alluded to, the WASDE report tomorrow, when you're looking at those pre-report estimates, have you heard anything one way or the other about where those numbers might land tomorrow?
There's not the corn carryouts, just it's a little under 2 billion bushel carryout. Beans is right around the 550 number. So there's not a whole lot of big changes that are expected in this report. I personally don't see the USDA getting overly aggressive or making too many changes in this November report. History tells you that this isn't a report where you see a lot of big changes, but you never know. I mean, the corn number, we've seen that yield trending higher in the last few WASDE reports. That's definitely one to keep your eye on, but I don't see anything big enough coming out of it that it would be a dagger or hammer, especially the corn market. Corn fundamentals, the world number has trended lower recently. World carryout has. I think corn, you keep corn more than likely around this 2 billion bushel number. Corn's not that bearish. I mean, we've seen corn extremely well supported, especially March corn. You get it down to this 420 level, and I think that's a theme that we see continue here moving forward. Is corn will be supported, and I think beans is going to be more driven off this bean oil story. What can that do to fuel beans by themselves? But I don't see a lot of big changes tomorrow.
On the other side of the ag marketplace, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
Cattle were very choppy, but they ended the day firmer. December live cattle were 42 cents higher. They ended at 185.82. February live cattle were 70 cents higher at 187.42. Feeder cattle market was mixed. November feeders were down a nickel. January feeders were 30 cents higher. Cattle cash has been very undefined so far this week. There actually hasn't been really any trade to speak of. Last week we had a lot of 190 live FOB cash trade. So cash remains the big bullish factor for the cattle market, and the funds are extremely long. They're holding their largest live cattle long since pre-COVID. They're a good size long in feeder cattle, and that cash is the biggest driver for that. Our demand has been extremely robust, especially domestic demand here in the United States. We are seeing the cutout pull back here a little bit, but I think the biggest thing for the or for the cattle market is what cash trade does here moving forward. The Packers have bought quite a bit of cash here the last few weeks, so I don't think they'll have to get as aggressive here, but cattle feeders, just like the grain farmer on rallies, I think cattle feeders need to be managing risk up here at these levels, especially as the managed money crowd holds the amount of long positions that they have on. That when you get the funds long more than 100,000 live cattle contracts like they are, there's a lot of risk that can be out here if something were to change, or if they saw something that made them want to start covering that position. You could have some significant downside risk to this market. Over in the hog market, hog futures, December hogs were down 92 cents. February hogs were up 15 cents. We are starting to see that spread get bear spread here more after this recent run up that you saw, where hog futures have done nothing really but go higher since this last August. And so I think seeing this bear spread activity going on in the DFEB hog spreads, I think you need to be mindful that maybe hogs have put their top in here. I mean, the managed money crowd, they have built into a new all-time record long position in the hog market. So, the old saying that things can't go higher forever, there's probably a lot of risk out here in the hog market as well from a future standpoint, with the managed money crowd holding this long position that they are. So you use these kind of rallies that we've seen in the hog market to your advantage and get a floor underneath this hog market.
Ross, thanks for all the great information here today. What's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
You can reach me at our office here in Anthon. Our number is 712-373-3276, or you can visit agmarket.net to find any of the ag market brokers.
Thanks so much for the time here today, Ross. Always appreciate it, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you to Ross for joining today's show. Let's take a look now at those closing numbers, which can be found anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
December corn closes up 1 1/4 at 427.5. January soybeans up 22.5 at 1026 1/4. December soybean meal up 10 cents at 298.50. December soybean oil up $1.98 at 48.32. Chicago wheat down 1 3/4 at 571.5. Minneapolis wheat down 3.5 at 602 even. Kansas City hard red wheat down 5 even at 569, and December oats down 8.5 at 383 1/4. On the Merc, December live cattle up 42 cents at 185.82. November feeder cattle down 5 cents at 247.65. December lean hogs down 92 cents at 81.20. December pork cutout unchanged at 94.55. Class 3 milk up 20 cents at 20.14.
That wraps up our closing market coverage for Thursday, and that brings us to the end of today's episode. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can find all of our podcasts as well on our website under the podcast tab, or wherever you find your favorite podcast, at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. There you can check out our 3 times daily market podcast and also the Iowa Ag Matters podcast. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.